Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Caitlin, and today we are celebrating a new release from Purple Onion Designs. I am a member of their design team. I absolutely love these images. Making this video is not part of my design team work, but they're so absolutely adorable that I had to share them with you. So I'm starting out by stamping Hannah and Finn, which are these adorable little couple. It's a bear and a bunny, and they're like looking up, and this is so cute because you can layer these with some of the different like Christmas shop stamps or a cityscape stamp, but today I'm going to be pairing it up with the city Christmas tree, which you can see over there on the right hand side. I kind of placed that first so that I could get proper placement for the couple, and then I am using my mounting stamp. That's that big clear 4x6 stamp that's on the door of my Misty. When you use this, you take out the inserts in your Misty, so you're just working with like an empty well there. And then your red rubber stamps can stick to the mounting stamp. It comes in 2 different sizes. I'll have everything linked in the description down below for you. So what I do is I layer all of my stamps in the order that I want them to be the closest to me. So, and then I close the door, and I do that also with my regular cling stamps. So we stamped down the couple first, then masked them off, and I ran out of full stick Post-it notes, but I was able to use a regular Post-it note, just making sure that the sticky part was on their feet so that when I cut it out, it's still stuck there. And again, because I'm out of my normal full stick Post-its, I decided to get creative with my mask for my tree. And so I took a piece of printer paper, folded it in half, and stamped the tree on it. Then I used some of my tape runner to stick the 2 layers of the tree together, or of the paper together, and then I cut out my tree. I'm going to be ink blending, and so because the couple are in front of the tree, just stamping out the tree is enough. But because I'm going to be ink blending and I'm going to be using a really dark color for this, I didn't want to risk the ink going through a single layer of printer paper. So that's why I doubled it up, and I'm going to just fold up some washi tape to make like a loop. We're going to tape it, just straight up tape it down at the bottom, and then I'm going to make a little tape loop and place it up towards the top. And I'm just going to be really mindful when I'm laying down my ink with direction. You know what I mean? Like when we're doing the little circles, to make sure I'm not bending my paper, and it works perfectly. So if you run out of full stick Post-its randomly, don't be discouraged. You can still ink blend and mask to your heart's content. You just have to be a little more strategic about it. So I also placed some of my regular Post-its down at the bottom. This is going to create our horizon line. I'm starting out by going in with some squeezed lemonade right around the star. And then just so that I got a little bit of a nicer transition, I didn't want it to look super green. So I brought in a little bit of Lost Shadow to kind of be a buffer in between my prize ribbon and my squeeze lemonade. And I'm using all oxide inks for this. And I'm going to just take my time building up that color. I am using the prize ribbon for all of the blue. Then we're going to add in some black soot, you can see up there in the left-hand corner. And I did kind of go back and forth with the Lost Shadow and a little bit more of whatever squeeze lemonade was left over on my brush to get a nice transition from the yellow to the blue. It still looks a little choppy here on video. In person, it looks pretty smooth. And once we add our snow over everything, it's going to hide it even more. It's going to look even smoother. I'm going in with Simon Says Stamp little mini blending brushes. Those are my ones I have dedicated to my oxide inks. And then I'm going in with a B39 Copic marker and B37 here in a minute, and just using that to clean up any little edges where my fussy cutting of my mask might not have been perfect. Those 2 colors work so well with the prize ribbon oxide. So if you use prize ribbon, those would be my top 2 recommended colors in case you need to clean up any edges. I also brought in some Y markers for that star. I thought they would blend in really nicely follow the same kind of color scheme as that squeezed lemonade. And then I'm going to be using the G99, G97 as my darkest two colors on my tree. And I'm going to start by just laying down some shadows under each ornament and under each garland strand. And I said 97, I meant 94. I'm sorry. G99, G94, and then YG63. Those are the three colors I am using for my tree. And I'm just going to work one section at a time. We're going to go from the top down. And then once I have my general shading there, I will go back in with the G99 and add a bunch of little flicking motions, and that will help to give that kind of pine needle texture. So the same thing, each one section at a time, just adding shadows under the ornaments, under the garland, filling that, like bringing that color down a little more with the G94, and then filling everything in with the YG63, and then giving it a second, going back in with the 99 to add the flicks. So I am going to show a couple of these sections, and then we'll kind of like jump through some of these because it's very repetitive, but I think that it's so impactful. And by ink blending the background, I saved myself so much time for this scene that I really felt that I wanted the tree to be the main focus and have all of that detail. So I didn't mind putting in a couple extra minutes to make sure that this looked really the way that I wanted it to. I think that anytime you're feeling overwhelmed, I know I've shared a lot about the fact that Copic coloring skies is like torture for me sometimes. I just get so overwhelmed, and I worry a lot about if my blends are going to be smooth and what everything's going to look like. What colors am I supposed to use? How do I get rid of these streaks? And because it's a work in progress, sometimes I feel up to the challenge and I like kind of being able to experiment. And some days it feels too much. So instead of letting that stop me from making a scene, I will often use this technique of doing an ink blended sky with a Copic colored kind of details or foreground. And that's been a really big game changer for me, so that even on those days when I don't feel up to, Copic coloring the whole thing, I can still have fun and make a card that I'm really happy with. So I just think it's fun to kind of remember that there aren't rules to card making. Nothing says that if you Copic color your foreground, the background also has to be colored. You could leave it plain, you could ink blend it, you could airbrush it, you could do so many things. You could fussy cut and put it on a pattern paper. I know Whimsy Stamps has a ton of really beautiful pattern paper that are like little scenes on their own. So something like that could be something you look into if that seems more appealing to you. Just get creative. Have fun with it, right? Like we overthink some of this so much sometimes, I think. And it's because we care, right? Like we love it. We love it so much that we care about it. And we want it to look a certain way. But sometimes we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace. So once I had that main part colored, I'm going to jump over to coloring in the ornaments so that you can see what that process looked like. And then I will finish the rest of the tree afterwards. So for all of these larger ornaments, I'm going in with red markers. So we're doing R59 as my shadow. I'm making kind of a C shape on the left-hand side. I'm going to blend that through the middle, kind of creating a smaller circle within each circle with the R29. And then I'm going to fill in the little slivers of white that I left on the top right corners with the R27 just for a little bit of dimension and pop. This went really quick. I did work in 2 sections for this first half, just kind of splitting it up top versus bottom so that I had time before my ink was drying because these are pretty little. And then for the garland, I went in with YR27, just doing a tiny little, same kind of thing, a little C on the left-hand side, and then filling in the rest of the garland bubbles with Y19 so that it gives a really nice warm golden pop that matches nicely with the star. So with the magic of editing, our tree is now complete. And I decided to give it a really fun gold and again, kind of warm feeling tree base. I just thought that this would be really fun because that blue is so strong. I didn't want this to feel like a cold winter scene. I still wanted it to feel a little warm and cozy because it's like this little intimate moment between these two, and they're, you know, in the hustle and bustle, they're taking a moment to stop and enjoy the warmth of this tree. And so I wanted to give more gold accents where I could to kind of keep that warm and toasty feeling. I did give a little bit of a sidewalk slash, it could be snowy. It could be really kind of whatever you want it to be, with some cool gray markers here across the ground. I kind of flipped my paper over on the other side so that I could have an easier time coloring that in. There you go. I flipped it over to lay in some shadows with that C3 on the other side, blended that out with my C2, and then went back in with my C0 to make sure that it was a nice and smooth blend. That's the same color combination for both sides. And then for the sweet little bunny, I went in with some E40s. I started out really light, but I decided that there's so much like depth and dimension in the rest of the shading that it was just too pale. So in a minute, we'll bring in some darker E40 markers to kind of really shade her up, going in with the E43 now to kind of reinforce some of those shadows, and then blending that back out with more of the 42. Again, I wanted it to kind of be still kind of neutral, but a little bit warm, right? I didn't want to do like a cool gray on the bunny or even like a neutral gray. I still want it to be a nice like earthy tone. And this is where I'm going to bring in even more of that darker E43 one more time just to reinforce those shadows. I grabbed some E57 and E55 to kind of make those brown paper shopping bags. And then we're going to bring in the same reds from our ornaments for the other shopping bags, doing one with kind of a green and red stripe and the other one just a plain red because it already has that Christmas tree on it. I thought it was cute. I love when stores have like holiday packaging, so maybe they do too. The little bunny is going to get a black coat. So this time I did grab some cool grays. Again, just trying to kind of keep things balanced. But also, I don't know, it's probably just what I grabbed, to be honest. And then I wanted to bring in the red one more time. So I grabbed the R29 marker and I'm using that all over the scarf, trying my best to avoid all of the little dots so that it's kind of like a little white dot situation. And I felt that there was enough going on there that just that one color was fine. My bear is going to be a little brown bear, so I brought in those E29 or E20 markers, starting off with the darkest shade E29. Then we'll bring in some 27 and 25 to color him up the rest of the way. I love kind of the chocolatey feel of this color family. It's one of the newer ones to me. And I feel like I don't use it a lot, but I really do love how they blend. So I'm pushing myself to use them more because every time I do use them, I'm really happy with my results. So we shaded in that highlights with the 25, and then the nose, the little muzzle, and the tail got some E23. I didn't want to do more black, so I decided to bring in those same blue colors from the sky into the bear's coat. So we're going B39, 37, and then 34 for my highlight. If there's one in between 37 and 34, I don't have it. This is a little bit of a jump, but I found that by overlapping them nicely, I can get a pretty smooth blend. And then we're going to bring in those same red tones one more time here on his scarf. This time I used all three shades just because it's a little bit bigger area, and without the pattern, it's a lot easier to kind of see what's happening. I sprayed a tiny bit of water onto my acrylic block, and I'm going in with Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White on a fan brush, and we are going to just tap this all over. I want this to look like flurries and not stars, so we definitely want some of those flurries to be over the top of our characters and our tree. The focus of it is still in the background, right, to break up all of that blue. But if we left this masked and only added the white to the sky, it would look like stars. So some of it definitely has to go on the tree and the characters to make it feel more like snow. Because I didn't have a ton of space on my card front for a sentiment unless I did some stamp cutting, I decided to stamp my Merry Christmas in red ink on the inside of my card base. And I am going to keep this really simple and just add the entire thing to my card base. You could definitely trim this down and add a backing panel, but I really loved the kind of ombre blend that I got on the edges with that black soot. And so I just left it the way it is, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love how this one came together. I'm going to show you a look at some of the other Purple Onion cards that I've been working on so far, because they're so stinking adorable. If you haven't seen them yet, please go check them out. I'll leave their link down below. It's not an affiliate link. I did get these stamps sent to me because I am part of the design team, but like I said, this video is not a requirement for being on the team. I just love them so much. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you to get creative and make a scene card that makes you happy. I love you guys so much. I will see you soon, and until then, happy crafting.